The 7:15 a.m. bus to downtown Los Angeles was always crowded. Steam rose from coffee cups clutched by half-awake commuters, the scent of various perfumes and colognes mixing with the crisp morning air that rushed in each time the doors opened. Among the sea of tired faces and business attire sat a man in a worn black jacket, his dark hair slightly tousled, eyes fixed on a weathered paperback. Despite being worth millions, Keanu Reeves preferred the honesty of public transportation. No chauffeurs, no tinted windows separating him from reality. Just another face in the crowd heading to the set of his latest film. What Keanu didn't notice, what no one noticed, was the woman who boarded at Sunset Boulevard every morning, precisely 3 stops after him. Elena Martinez, 34, a hospital administrator with kind eyes that betrayed a weight of untold sorrows. Every day she would find a seat that offered a clear view of the famous actor, though she never approached him or took photos like an obsessed fan might. Her interest was different, more profound, more desperate. What could drive a woman to silently watch a celebrity from afar every single day? Subscribe to find out the shocking truth behind this mysterious behavior. Keanu's life was an open book, or so the public thought. The media had crafted a narrative of tragedy and resilience around him. The loss of his daughter, the death of his girlfriend, his generosity with film crews, his humble demeanor despite immense success. But celebrities are never truly known, only the stories we project onto them. Elena's life was far less documented. A daughter of Mexican immigrants who had worked tirelessly to put herself through college, she now managed staff scheduling at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Her apartment in a modest neighborhood of East Los Angeles was small but tastefully decorated with photographs of family gatherings, potted succulents on every windowsill. What connected these two individuals, beyond the 7:20 metro bus route, they shared, remained invisible to everyone around them, even to Keanu himself. 3 months had passed since Elena first recognized him on her daily commute. 3 months of silent observation, of gathering courage, of rehearsing words that never made it past her lips. The distance between their seats, usually about 15 feet, might as well have been miles. The distance between their worlds was incalculable. In Elena's desk drawer at work lay a sealed envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, carefully, composed over dozens of drafts, addressed simply to Keanu. The paper inside bore the weight of a story that connected them in ways no one could have imagined. That morning, Eleanor had finally placed the envelope in her purse, determined that today would be different. Today she would bridge the gap. As the bus jolted through morning traffic, Eleanor's fingers traced the outline of the envelope through the fabric of her bag. Her heart raced with the knowledge that the next few minutes could alter the course of her life forever. Keanu, still absorbed in his book, Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, remained oblivious to her internal struggle. The irony wasn't lost on Elena. Punishment and redemption were precisely what her letter was about. When the bus pulled up to Keanu's usual stop near the studio, Elena rose from her seat. This was her moment. But as she took one step forward, a businessman rushing to exit knocked into her, sending her stumbling back into her seat. By the time she regained her balance, Keanu had disappeared into the crowd. The letter remained undelivered. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. What was in that mysterious letter? Stay with us to discover the shocking connection between a Hollywood star and an ordinary woman. 23 years earlier, in a small apartment in San Francisco, a young Keanu Reeves, not yet famous, but working steadily in television, had crossed paths with Elena's older sister, Magdalena Martinez. Their brief romance had produced no headlines, no paparazzi photos, nothing that would register in the public consciousness. But it had produced something else, a secret that would eventually bring Elena onto that Los Angeles bus route, day after day, watching a man who had no idea how their lives were intertwined. Back in her office at Cedars-Sinai, Elena stared at the family photo on her desk, Magdalena's smiling face frozen in time before the car accident that had claimed her life 5 years ago. Before she died, Magdalena had made Elena promise to deliver that letter, to finally unburden herself of the truth she had carried alone. "When the time is right," Magdalena had whispered from her hospital bed. when you're ready." Elena wondered if she would ever truly be ready, but her sister's final wish had to be honored no matter how daunting the task. That evening, as she prepared dinner in her kitchen, the radio playing soft Latin jazz, the scent of simmering chilaquiles filling the small space, Elena made a decision. The bus route was too unpredictable, too public. She needed another way to reach Keanu. 3 days later, Elena stood outside the set of Keanu's new film, clutching the envelope that had become her constant companion. Security was tight, but she had come prepared with a story about delivering important medical documents, not entirely a lie, given the contents of her letter. What she hadn't prepared for was seeing Keanu emerging from his trailer at that exact moment, heading toward his motorcycle parked nearby. Their eyes met across the parking lot. For one breathless second, Elena thought she saw a flicker of recognition in his gaze. Impossible, of course. He had never truly seen her on the bus, and he certainly wouldn't recognize her as Magdalena's sister after all these years. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice steadier than she felt. "Mr. Reeves?" Keanu paused, turning toward her with that famously patient expression that had endeared him to millions. "Yes?" The moment stretched between them, a thread connecting, past to present, secrets to revelations. Elena's hand trembled as she extended the envelope. "This is from Magdalena Martinez," she said, watching carefully for any reaction. "My sister." The change in Keanu's expression was subtle but unmistakable, a slight widening of the eyes, a tensing of his shoulders. He recognized the name. "Magdalena," he repeated softly, taking the envelope. "I haven't heard that name in many years." "She passed away," Elena explained, her voice catching. 5 years ago. She wanted you to have this." Keanu nodded solemnly, his fingers tracing the same path around the envelope that Elena's had so many times. "Thank you for bringing it to me." As he turned to leave, envelope in hand, Elena called out one last time, "I take the same bus as you, every morning. I've been trying to find the courage to give you that for months." He looked back, really seeing her for the first time. "The 7:20, he said. "I thought you seemed familiar." What shocking revelation did Magdalena need to share? With Keanu, after decades of silence, continue watching to uncover this heart-wrenching truth. Inside his trailer, Keanu sat alone with the unopened letter. The name Magdalena Martinez had conjured memories of a different life, before fame had completely transformed his existence, when he was just a young actor with dreams bigger than his bank account. They had spent only a few weeks together, a brief romance cut short by his first significant role that took him away from San Francisco. They had promised to stay in touch, but life, as it often does, had other plans. With careful fingers, he broke the seal and unfolded the pages inside. As he read, the color drained from his face. "Dear Keanu," the letter began in handwriting. He didn't recognize Elena's, not Magdalena's. "My sister asked me to write this on her behalf in her final days, when she could no longer hold a pen." The letter revealed what Elena had known for years. Magdalena had discovered she was pregnant after Keanu left. Believing he was on the cusp of greatness and not wanting to burden him, she had made the difficult decision to raise their child alone. That child, a daughter named Isabella, had grown up never knowing her father's identity. She had died at 19 in the same car accident that had eventually claimed Magdalena's life after years in a coma. Keanu read of a daughter he never knew, who had inherited his love of literature and philosophy, who had his smile, according to the letter, who had kept a scrapbook of his films, believing only that she was a fan, never knowing she was watching her father. Photographs fell from between the pages, a dark-haired girl graduating high school, smiling on a beach, reading a book with the same intense concentration that Keanu himself was known for. The revelation hit him with the force of a physical blow. A daughter. A daughter who had lived and died without him ever knowing she existed. The following morning, the 7:15 a.m. bus arrived as usual, but Keanu wasn't in his regular seat. Neither was Elena. Across town, they sat across from each other in a quiet corner of a diner in Los Feliz, steam rising from untouched coffee cups, the weight of unasked questions hanging between them. "Why now?" Keanu finally asked. his voice hoarse. It's been years since... He couldn't bring himself to say their names. Magdalena, Isabella. Elena's hands wrapped around her mug, drawing warmth. My sister tried to reach you many times over the years. Letters to agencies, calls that were never returned. As your fame grew, the walls around you became impenetrable. I never knew, Keanu said, genuine pain in his eyes. I never received any messages. She believed you chose your career over knowing your daughter, Elena admitted. But I've watched you on that bus, a man worth millions who rides public transportation, who gives away much of his wealth, who seems to carry his own sadness. I started to believe you might have made a different choice if you'd known. Keanu stared out the window, watching ordinary lives unfold on the street. Outside. I would have, he said simply. Eleanor reached into her bag and produced a small, worn journal. This was Isabella's, her thoughts, her dreams. She wrote about your movies sometimes, what she called strange coincidences, how she felt, connected to characters you played, how she loved the same books without ever knowing why. As Keanu reached for the journal, their fingers brushed momentarily. Two people united by love for those no longer present. I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, Eleanor said, her voice barely above a whisper. But my sister's last wish was for you to know your daughter, even if only through memories. How does one process learning about a child they never knew existed? Keep watching to see how this revelation transforms Keanu's life in unexpected ways. The Los Angeles Memorial Cemetery was quiet that Saturday morning. Dew still clung to the grass as Keanu and Elena walked side by side, their shadows long in the early light. Isabella and Magdalena Martinez shared a modest plot beneath a jacaranda tree. Fresh flowers, Elena's weekly offering, added color to the solemn scene. Keanu knelt before the headstone, tracing the engraved name of his daughter. 23 years of fatherhood compressed into a single week of knowledge. 23 years of birthdays, tears, laughter, and milestones, all unknown to him until now. She played the guitar, Elena said softly, standing behind him. Self-taught. She loved your movie Bill and Ted and decided she wanted to learn. She was good, really good. She was studying music at UCLA when the accident happened. Keanu's shoulders shook slightly, the only visible sign of his grief. The day before the accident, she told my sister she was going to try to find you, Elena continued. She had decided she was old enough to reach out on her own. She wanted to know her father. The weight of those words, of possibilities forever, lost hung in the cemetery air. After a long silence, Keanu spoke without turning. All these years I've carried the pain of the daughter I lost with my ex. I never knew I had lost two daughters. Eleanor placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, a human connection bridging grief too vast for words. As they left the cemetery, Keanu paused at the gates. Thank you, he said simply, for riding that bus every day, for having the courage I never knew I needed someone to have. 6 months later, the entertainment news was buzzing with Keanu Reeves' latest project. Not a film, but a foundation. The Isabella Martinez Foundation would provide music education and instruments to underprivileged youth across America. At the press conference, a rare public appearance for the notoriously private actor, Keanu stood alongside Elena. He spoke briefly about being inspired by a young musician he had never had the chance to meet, careful not to reveal the full truth to the world. Some observant reporters noted the mysterious woman beside him, speculating wildly about a new romance. Neither Keanu nor Elena bothered to correct them. The truth was theirs alone. Behind the scenes, Elena had become the foundation's director, bringing her administrative expertise from the hospital to this new venture. Together, they transformed personal tragedy into purpose, creating opportunities Isabella would never have. She would have loved this, Elena told Keanu, as they watched the first group of scholarship recipients perform at the Foundation's inaugural concert. Seeing her passion live on in others. Keanu nodded, a rare smile crossing his face. I see her in them, he said. Through your memories, through her journal, I see her. In the audience that night sat passengers from the 720 bus route, everyday people who had shared space with a grieving father and a woman carrying the weight of an undelivered truth. never knowing the drama unfolding in the seats around them. As this incredible story reaches its conclusion, make sure you're subscribed to see how Keanu honors the daughter he never knew in the most beautiful way. 1 year to the day after receiving Elena's letter, Keanu Reeves arrived at the bus stop on Sunset Boulevard, where Elena had boarded each morning to watch him. But today the bus stop looked different. A small plaque had been installed on the bench, not announcing Keanu's connection, but simply commemorating Isabella Martinez, a young musician whose life had been cut short. Below her name, a quote from one of Keanu's films that she had written about in her journal. "The smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention." Few people would ever know the true significance of this memorial. To most, it would be just another civic dedication in a city full of them. But to Keanu and Elena, who stood before it in the early morning light, it represented something profound, acknowledgement of a life that had connected them, of secrets now shared, of grief transformed into purpose. "I take the bus because it grounds me," Keanu said quietly as they stood together. "It reminds me that behind every anonymous face is a complete universe of experiences. I never imagined one of those universes would turn out to be connected to mine in such a fundamental way." Elena smiled, thinking of her sister, of her niece, of the strange journey that had brought her here. "Life has a way of bringing people together when they're meant to find each other," she said, "even if the timing isn't what we might have chosen." As the 7:15 a.m. bus approached, Keanu made an unexpected decision. "Let's ride," he said. "One more time." They boarded together, taking the seats they had occupied separately for so many months, this time side by side. Fellow passengers glanced their way, some recognizing the famous actor, others noticing nothing unusual about the pair. None of them could see the invisible threads that connected these two people, threads of loss, revelation, and ultimately healing. None of them knew that sometimes the most extraordinary stories unfold in the most ordinary places, like a city bus rolling through the streets of Los Angeles, carrying passengers whose lives intersect in ways they might never comprehend. As the bus pulled away from the stop that now honored Isabella's memory, Keanu and Elena looked forward, not to the past they couldn't change, but to the future they would help create in her name. A future where young musicians would pursue dreams that Isabella never had the chance to fulfill. A future where her spirit would live on through every note played, every song written. And somewhere, perhaps, a young woman with Keanu's smile and a guitar in her hands was looking down on them, finally at peace, knowing that the father who never knew her would ensure she was never forgotten.